we had over 6,000 applicants for the software engineer one, fresh college graduates, as well as interns last year.
Oh, wow.
We hired 0.67% of them. We have a very high benchmark for hiring. I think we've had over 543 people apply for our current senior software engineer position. So we have a lot of people apply to our jobs.
Wow, that's quite impressive. To get 6,000 candidates.
I actually hired 84 full-time people by my. I hired 84 people last year, plus 30 interns. That I did as a recruiter. I'm the only recruiter at OCM.
Wow, some impressive stats indeed. Very cool. Very cool.
I'm a recruiting coordinator and I have a recruiting manager, but I'm pretty much the external face of the recruiting team to candidates.
Yeah, awesome. So you mentioned you got 6,000 applicants last year for one of the roles. So how do you sell the opportunity to these candidates? How come you get so many applicants?
Yeah. So in terms of how I sell it, what I do is I start out with talking to them about, like, what do you know about our company, to fill in the gaps of knowledge. First I tell them, you guys can relax. We're just going to have a information exchange. Your resume has already been reviewed by the hiring manager. We're going to move you on to the next phase, which is talking to me. So you'll definitely pass this interview. So you can just relax, exchange information. Then I tell them I'm a fire hose of information, that I give a lot of information. I don't expect questions. I'm not going to judge you negatively if you don't ask questions, because I give you so much information. And I also provide candidates with several links, about 4 or 5 links, talking about our product that actually support the things I tell them. Okay. So first I start talking about how in 2015 our CEO and our other co-founders sold their last startup for $1.36 billion to IBM, which instantly gives credibility, to our management team. Our management team also has 7 major successful enterprise exits as well. Okay, so you're immediately you're putting Ocean in the category of, wow, we have one unicorn CEO that's running the show. I tell them about, what basically, we did, 2 years of hardcore research and development, how we're thinking outside the box. I tell them about how our technology is truly, innovative and hasn't been done before, that we have 95 patents issued, over 300 patents pending, how we're 30% of the cost compared to our competitors. I tell them about some of our high-level sales statistics to show that we are kicking butt on sales. We hit 177% of our revenue goal last year. I talk about some of our investors that we have in the company, and I share with them that we're, that we're on track for a $10 billion exit in 2029.
Wow.
So after that section, I talk to them about the benefits of working for Ocean. I tell them about all the benefits. I have them memorized. I also send them an email. One of my pet peeves as a candidate myself was, I get a verbal offer, which is nice, but they want you to say yes to the offer right away. I've got kids. I need to know what the benefits are. One time I actually accepted an offer for, I think it was New Dimensions in Technology. And it turns out that their health insurance was actually, I write them a check after the taxes are taken out, tax withholding taken out. Then I write a check back to the company to pay for my health insurance, which is totally backwards, and they didn't participate or help me. They didn't contribute to my health insurance costs at all. So what I do is I send them an email with our employee benefits guide. When I'm talking to them, I send them an email with employee benefits guide as a PDF. Okay. One other thing I love about Ocean is that they're so transparent, with so many different things. I actually have what's called an equity estimator PDF based upon 5,000 options, vesting over 4 years with a 1-year cliff, with a $10 billion exit, how much that will be worth. Okay. I've never seen a company that I've recruited for before actually share that future IPO, information that we expect to hit with a $10 billion exit, and how much that's worth, to the candidate themselves. Okay. And I think that really gets them excited once I tell them that, and then I finish up with I go through the next steps of the interview process so they actually know the roadmap of what to expect. Okay. So it's more of an information session that I ask if they have any questions that they want to ask me. Sometimes I don't know the answers. Sometimes I'd say with more junior level candidates, very often, like I blew them away with so much information that they really don't know what to ask. But I do know that they're hungry to join our company. Everybody's very, very hungry to join our company. So
Oh, that sounds
yeah,
amazing. Now I'm excited about the company as well, just after all
there you
the
go, right?
numbers that you mentioned.
I project a lot of energy. Oh, and I finished off the interview saying, "Hey, we have a tradition here at Austin. I got to give you a high five and wish you luck. So bring it up. Bring it up,
Oh,
Michael. Come
nice,
on, bring it
nice.
up.
High
Bring it
fives,
up."
yeah.
And boom goes the dynamite. All right. So good luck with your interviews. Have fun with it. I hope I call you in a couple weeks. Look for my caller ID. I'll be hopefully making you a verbal offer to join us. That's kind of how I finish it off with the interview, make it more fun and engaging, and really
Mm.
build that emotional connection, which I think really brings us to the top.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Part of the
Well,
other.
I can imagine, and quite some people who will be watching this video or listening to the podcast now with you, they may be thinking, "Oh my God, it's so easy for him because the company is really so outstanding, right?" And they may be wondering what to do if they are working in an average company when, in a company where the CEO hasn't exited $1 billion company or where they don't have such an outstanding plan. Can you also share some ideas on what people can do in such cases?
Yeah, so it's helpful to have share as much information as management will allow you to share. First of all, being very transparent with people is great. I don't ask a whole lot. I really don't even ask behavioral questions, to be honest with you. I let the engineering managers, handle all that. But really, if there's probably some press, like I've worked for other companies that were rated like, the next unicorn in Boston, okay, or find some different press releases and see what they are. I think it's very helpful for recruiters to share this press information with the candidates because one thing, I mean, you've been a candidate before. When you're interviewing with a company, there's so much information. Like, how do you know like what's important? Like, there's no way to digest every blog article we posted at Ocean. Okay, but it's helpful for you as a recruiter to know what the high points are, and if you share that with them, you're gonna stand up from the other recruiters. Most my impression of other recruiters is they're very kind of standoffish. They ask these hard questions and all that. There's really no emotion. It's like almost like it's a privilege for the candidate to speak with a recruiter. Okay, I turn around. I make it a pleasure for me to speak with these outstanding candidates, and the fact that they passed our very high, benchmark for filters on who we actually talk to. I'm excited to talk to them. I find it's a privilege they're spending an hour or half an hour with me to talk to me. Okay, so I kind of turn around and really show that appreciation to them. One thing I learned when I was doing sales is everybody wants to be wanted. And back when I was doing mortgage sales, I would end the call with saying, you know what, I really want your business. This is like I think this is a great product, and I really want you as my customer. And just by saying that I want them really kind of turns it around. I'm not just some average mortgage guy. Okay. I'm
Mm.
saying I want you. Okay. And I think that's a huge thing right there to stand out
Mhm.
about. Everybody wants to be wanted. So show them that you want them.
Mhm. That's a good one. That's a really good one. I can apply this even in sales now,
Yeah.
when getting some new clients on board. Very
You
cool.
have to ask for the close, but you have to say, I want your business. I really want you as my customer. I'm
Mm.
really excited about working together with you. I'm really excited about this project.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it
Awesome.
works.
Yeah, yeah. So you sell the company, you sell the team and the benefits and whatnot, but also you sell yourself as the recruiter, right? So what do you do to level up your personal brand, to increase your visibility online? Do you have any strategy, that you follow, or are you active? I saw, for example, the hackathon that you organize. Is it a part of the strategy, or is it something on the side?
I mean, it's something on the side, but it's so one thing. Again, I'll talk about differences between myself and other recruiters. I live in Boston. I work in Boston, a very, very, very competitive environment. Thousands of recruiters. Okay, thousands of recruiters are here, especially tech recruiters. Um, the thing is, though, most of these recruiters that are calling engineers at work trying to get them to join their company, they don't know the tech stack. So it helps to know the tech stack. Okay. So if a company, it also helps with filtering resumes, right? So I've got like a low level C position that I've been recruiting for. If I get a C#.NET resume that's like more high level stuff, I just, I reject the candidate. And it's very rare to find, it's hard to find a low level C superstar senior engineer. Okay. But the thing is, like, I know the tech stacks. I know I've taken the time over the years to learn what like Python goes with Django. Python does not go with Ruby. Ruby goes with Rails. Ruby does not go with React or Node. JavaScript goes with React Native. Your Vue, Vue or React with Node on the back end. Just taking the time to really learn the tech stack makes you sound more intelligent. Okay. And the other thing, is if someone asks me a technical question, I don't make up an answer because it makes common sense to me. I actually say I don't know the answer to that, but I can get you an answer for it. But being heavily involved with different tech meetup groups and organizations really built my reputation in Boston. I started recruiting back in 2006 here in the Boston area. So I would say that helps a lot. The fact that I was running Boston JavaScript meetup group from I think 2010 until 2012. I grew from like a couple hundred people up to 600 people. I was the guy there all the time. They get to know you as a person. Okay, attending the Boston Ruby group, I became known as a Boston Ruby recruiter. Just getting to attend these events. You don't have to talk the tech speak, but it's helpful. And if you do go to these events, often they'll have like an announcement section where members of the audience can make announcements. That can say, hey, I'm with Ocean, we're the world's fastest data warehouse and analytics software product company. We're currently hiring for, a engineering manager with loading background. So if you have that, please contact me directly. Or if you know someone, please refer them to me. Okay. And just by kind of putting that out there, it really kind of builds your reputation. Also, they tend to have some like organizations like Slack. And I mean, it's not Slack, but I think I'm a member of like the Jacksonville or Orlando, software developers Slack. I joined a bunch of different Slacks and just kind of participate in discussions, all that, even if it's a funny Giphy, meme or something like that, just kind of participating and kind of having your name and stuff as you recognize you as one of them. So one thing like we talked before is I have Angel Hack as my Angel Hack Boston, which I am the ambassador for Angel Hack, the world's largest hackathon, for here in Boston. But that immediately gives credibility. If I had a standard, no offense, Ocean, but if I had a standard Ocean, LinkedIn header, which I could put up, it makes me look like just another recruiter. Okay. By having Angel Hack Boston up there, it shows that I'm a leader, and I actually know what the heck I'm talking about with regard to tech. Okay. So I think just filling yourself and being involved with these different, events is great. The other thing is I have been a startup founder myself 8 times. I've launched 4 applications. I've sold 2 companies, and I have a software patent. That gives me credibility as well, with these software engineers as my candidates.
Yeah, awesome. And what would you then recommend to someone who is rather at the beginning of the career and maybe a bit afraid of all the IT terminology you just mentioned, Ruby and Python and Django and whatnot, and they may not know it yet? They can, of course, learn. They can join the academy. They can watch the YouTube channel, whatever. But still, they may feel insecure. Like, do you have any suggestions on how someone can overcome this fear of raising the hand and saying like, hey, we are looking for software developers?
So I think I published a LinkedIn. I post a lot of articles on LinkedIn around startup stuff and recruiting. And I believe I actually posted an article about what the different tech stacks are for startups and how they go together. But I would say, I would say search Google for like different tech stack combinations. There's probably some articles that, talk about, low level C++, which is what we do here at Ocean, for our core product, running on Linux and all that. For our database drivers team, we are doing JDBC, ODBC with Java, and something with Python. But just trying to like learn what the tech stacks are in your company, with the different products and all that, and then actually, take a look and maybe do some research online to learn that Python goes with, Django as a framework, or Ruby goes with Rails, as a framework or something like that. C#.NET,
Yeah.
And the differences between C# and C++ and C and JavaScript and Java are very, very different. It's very common for people to contact JavaScript, web developers, say, hey, I've got a really great backend Java position for you. Well, Most, if you went to most web developers, if they went to like one of these, boot camps or whatever, these dev academies, they really don't know the hardcore Java that goes and runs in the back end. It's just the way. So
Awesome.
and also be tough. I mean, have a tough filter. If these new recruiters submit every outside agency in, they're going to be let go because they're not adding any value. Okay, because one of the main reasons to have a recruiter, half the reason is to actively go source people, right? But it's also to filter applications in. So you don't want to be sending every candidate that applies to the hiring manager because they got to get the washout on their own thing. So I recommend being very, very tough on your filters for who you actually move forward in your applications. I'd say I probably reject between 95 and 98% of all applicants I reject.
Oh wow, yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot. Wow.
Well, I mean, we're not sponsoring H-1Bs right now. We're not hiring internationally right now unless they happen to be referred by an existing employee and they worked at another database software product company. So that automatically gets rid of a lot of people. It's shocking how many candidates you get for jobs that require visa sponsorship.
Well. I mean, just thinking about all these 95% or 98%, like if you just hire 0.6%, as you mentioned at the beginning, is just and you get 6,000 of them per year. That's just crazy.
We have a nice filter called hackerrank.com. So for all the interns, actually for a while I would talk to them all, then put them into HackerRank, and it just became too burdensome. I was doing 12 to 14 interviews every day, half-hour piece. It was just too much. So we actually changed the process around to be, if I see a junior candidate that looks good, I move them like a software engineer, intern, or fresh college graduate. Because we have 6,000, I put them right into the HackerRank stage. Okay, they get a link to take the HackerRank. Our HackerRank test takes, I think, 90 or 95 minutes. We have a passing score of 30 out of 31. Very, very high benchmark, and that gets rid of 95% of the people. Our HackerRank test is known as the most difficult, or one of the most difficult in the United States of America. 80% of the candidates score 0, and 15% of the candidates score between 1 and 29. Okay, then we only take the top 5% and move them through the process. So having some heavy filters in the beginning is good. Most senior level candidates do not want to be pushed into a coding challenge right away. So what I do is I give them my love, get them all excited, over the Zoom call, make sure they're excited and all that, so they feel like, okay, here's a freaking golden opportunity for me. It's going to be worth my hour and a half to take this test, because Jesus, what Marsh told me is freaking amazing. I mean, I can't believe I stumbled across this company. Holy cow! I hope I get the offer. So. Awesome. But trying to get them all jazzed up and excited and all that, give them the high five, good luck on the HackerRank. It really gets them going. It gives them, I think, more motivation. I tell them to have fun with it. I've heard it's fun. I haven't taken it. I know I'd get a 0 if I did. But
well, I love the energy now. That's just awesome. So you have two different paths, right? One is for the juniors, one is for the seniors. The juniors go straight to HackerRank, and with the seniors, you warm them up, and then that you send them to HackerRank. Awesome. Cool. Okay, cool. Okay, just thinking about all these people who may be in a similar position, but they don't have 6,000 applicants. Often, especially on the agency side, they have like 2-3 applicants per position, and they wonder like, where do we get the candidates? So based on your experience, would you also be able to compare these two approaches? One being the corporate recruiter working internally with 6,000 applicants, and on the other side, having no candidates and chasing them and convincing at least one to appear on interview.
Yeah, well, let's finish up a little bit more about the internal. I've got a couple more things to add. Yeah, awesome. I do have a ton of applicants, but I also very actively recruit using LinkedIn Recruiter. I do my searches. I send out a LinkedIn message like template that I have that's all set. I talk about the cool stuff that I mentioned. I talk about that in my message to them. And I'd say probably half of our jobs we probably fill with people that I've sourced, on LinkedIn, to be honest with you. Okay.
Mm.
That I proactively sourced and they're interested. I get a lot of people that reply. So I have a very good response rate on that. So
If
that's
the
that.
branding, if the branding
Yeah.
helps, the branding
Ex-
helps in this case,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. And we get we ever since we, started doing our content, posting OCN articles in Data and other places has driven more people in as well. So
Mhm.
on the agency side, my biggest recommendation is if you've got like if I get a JavaScript, React Node candidate, a job that I need a source for, I will be heads down doing that hardcore LinkedIn sourcing, trying to find people. Another advantage I have is I have 29,000 LinkedIn connections. I'm using over 150,000, so I'm very early with that. But I send out the messages to these candidates. I basically so when I do that, so I source a bunch of candidates for one job, and then I take a look and see what other companies I have as clients that may also be wanting to have a JavaScript React Node person.
Mm.
Maybe I had a candidate name, what was his name? I forget. Anyways, but he was like a hardcore Java guy. So I got him. He got hired at ITA Software here in Cambridge and all that. But he had 8 job offers, okay, all through my clients. So he applied for a job. I saw him. He was freaking amazing. So I ended up like putting him out to my other client companies that also had that. So we basically had what's called red card, blue card competition, which means, okay, well, he's getting an offer from ITA, but I'm telling that to like TripAdvisor, saying, well, he's getting an offer from 4 other companies. Okay. So if you want to move, you better move quickly. So I try to like turn that on them, but I also try to keep what they call the candidate's dance card, where the biggest competition I think in contingency recruiting is as a recruiter, you're competing with other companies the candidate's talking to already. You're competing with the other applicants in your client company for that role. And you're competing with other recruiters trying to take him away from the stuff. So if I can fill up his entire week with interviews with my clients, I have a higher likelihood of placing that candidate. Getting him in early and getting him scheduled puts him ahead of the other candidates competing for that role. Okay, in all the
Mm.
different roles. Plus, I keep him busy with my clients. I'm more likely to get the placement fee. Okay,
Mm. Mm.
so
Yeah. Awesome. So
and
the
I'll try to. I also, as a contingency recruiter, like I do now, I actually really try to help them prepare. Give them information about each company, about
mm,
give them LinkedIn profiles of the interviewers and people like that as well.
mhm.
So
Yeah, great. So you prepare them for the interview with some
yeah,
notes. Yeah, awesome. And
exactly.
it's actually interesting coming back to what you mentioned a while ago with these half of the candidates hired by Ocean are sourced by you internally. It's kind of
Yep.
interesting, right? You get 6,000 applicants for one role, yet still half of the placements are
A few roles, not just one, but yeah.
yeah, a few. So, but half of the hires are still by you sending cold messages to prospective candidates.
Those are more the senior level people. Like we've got a technical product manager, a database position open right now.
Hmm.
We like our specific skill set that I'm filtering for is that they must have a computer science or other kind of software-ish, bachelor's degree. They
Hmm.
must have worked as a software engineer at a software company before for at least 2-3 years, and they must have worked at a database software product company before. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
which is very, very few of those. Okay, so that makes my filtering very easy. I think we only have like 3 people in the entire pipeline right now, but I think I sourced a couple of them, and that's great news. Same with the engineering manager loading team, we have that position open as well. Must have built, a loading software at a database software product company.
Hmm.
Very, very hard to find those people. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's what I do. So in my LinkedIn sourcing for the senior level stuff, I'm looking for the keywords of loading, looking for the keyword of ETL, ELT, looking for Kafka for streaming. I'm looking
Hmm.
for those keywords to identify who I actually want to reach out to.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah. And I assume.
the more narrow you have your requirements, the
Mhm.
easier it is to really filter people out and not bombard, not flood the hiring manager with a bunch of resumes to review.
Yeah, yeah. And you probably also have a few companies, the competitors on LinkedIn, in LinkedIn Recruiter, right? And then you have a filter and you get updates, right? So it's really good to niche down in this sense, I assume.
Yeah, I think it is. And actually, I literally put in my LinkedIn recruiter search, I put in the names of the database software product companies that we like to source out, like Single Store and there's like Oracle, IBM, Teradata. We've got a bunch of Teradata people. Had a couple of MongoDB people come over, and that's just because they really know the database, the internals of the database software really well, which helps us a lot, But I think being more picky and actually doing that, is very, very helpful.
Yeah, I see. And probably the last question before we wrap it up regarding the speed to hire. I'm just now wondering, what would you recommend is the kind of your approach, or I'm not saying the best. It may not be applicable, in other companies or especially staffing agencies. But based on your experience, what can people expect? What is a reasonable speed to hire? Like, how quickly can you close a role?
Right. So one thing I do, I literally have my dashboard. So we're using Greenhouse right now. We are switching to Trackstar, I think, next month as an ATS, but we're using Greenhouse. So I always have my dashboard window open, like, if I see application review, I click on it and I process them right away. I'll log in on Saturday and Sunday in the morning, see if there's anything waiting for me, and I'll just kind of take care of that. But I'm always kind of monitoring the dashboard, like the needs decision, section, seeing, have they had an interview? Have they actually completed the scorecard or review different scorecards that are missing from interviewers? So I try to move the candidates through quickly. One thing that all of our software engineering candidates get 2 coding interviews. One thing we did last summer, which we're not doing now because of Greenhouse's limitations, we would send out and we use Calendly as well. So we use Calendly integration, so candidates can schedule their interviews on our interviews calendar. We would send out both interview requests for both interviews at the same time. Okay. That way we don't have to, because they're going to get the second interview regardless if they bomb the first interview. So why wait to finish up the first interview before we send the invite for the second interview? Let's just send them both. The problem with that is the Greenhouse actually can't handle having to, like, it'll document the first interview that this candidate schedules will be documented in Greenhouse, but the second one that gets scheduled, it won't be added to Greenhouse, which is annoying, But if you can basically send out a bunch of interview schedules, because they are sequential, if you can send them all out at once, it's going to speed up the process a lot faster. Okay.
No, that's a great tip actually. Now when you say it, it totally makes sense because you can always cancel those other interviews if the candidate doesn't pass the first one, and it's so much easier to cancel than to schedule the second. Schedule the third. Wow, that's a good one.
Schedule them out all at once, and then that way you can move them through faster.
Yeah. So with this,
the other thing we did was when we were hiring software engineer ones last year, we had like 6 or 7 openings. We wouldn't wait to see who the top 3 are. We'd basically make them an offer the same day, and we did that very often where the hiring manager would have a final interview, and Leo would say, "Hey, Marsh, want to make an offer?" Okay, then we go through this verbal offer approval process that we do. I've got an email template that I send out to all the people that need to do that verbal. I usually would make a verbal offer the same day as the candidate had their final interview last year for all the more junior level people. And speed to hire, that's my competitive advantage as a recruiter.
Wow, that's kind of impressive. So then, I'm not sure whether you can share any number, but with this accelerated approach, are we talking about, let's say, 2 weeks or 6 weeks, or?
I would say 2 weeks from the date that I speak to them. So if I speak to them, if I spoke to them on last Friday the 20th, I would expect to have them go through the process, and I'd be able to make them an offer on the 3rd, November 3rd or before.
Oh wow, that's really fast.
Usually a week to week and a half, usually a week and a half to 2 weeks.
Impressive.
But then for the more senior level positions, they have a lot of stages. Like our engineering manager loading team has, I think, like, how many stages does it have? It's got, let's see, application review is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stages.
Oh
So
wow.
that takes a lot longer to fill.
8 pages.
The manager level jobs require a lot more due
Hmm.
diligence,
Yeah.
a lot more, many more interviews.
Wow.
Versus, with the software engineer one, we don't expect them to know a whole lot. We just want to make sure they have good coding fundamentals, strong coding fundamentals.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, you shared really awesome insights and tips. That's super cool. Is there anything you'd like to share as the kind of final advice to people who now, look at this interview and look at you and they are like, oh my god, like I want to be like Marsh at some point. Like, what should they do with their career, with their knowledge? What would you recommend to someone to become a recruiter
I
like
would say,
yourself?
one thing that's going to help you a lot is if you send me a LinkedIn invitation to connect and actually put a note in saying, hey, Michael, Juhas referred me to you to connect. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll accept that. Because like I said, I have 29,000 LinkedIn connections.
Hmm.
Take a look at your amount of connections before you connect with me and how the third degree grows after you connect with me. I'm mostly in the tech space, so most of my connections are all software engineers, which I think is going to help and really build that LinkedIn, this LinkedIn connections. You
Hmm.
know, connect with other recruiters. If you hit off with a candidate, send them after you speak with them, send them an invitation to connect. You know,
Hmm.
that's actually one of my to-dos is I go through, I take a look at our top candidates that we really like, and I send them invitations to connect because they ideally have worked with other people. So I'm a big believer in the power of referral. When I send an email, like a LinkedIn message to people, I also say, well, if you're not interested, you know someone else who's interested. When I was running my own recruiting agency as a contingency recruiter, I would offer, my line wouldn't be like, I wouldn't write, do you want this job? I would say, do you know anyone for this role? $2,000 referral reward. Okay. That's called it's I forget, Seth Godin calls like permission marketing, permission based marketing. So you're
Yeah.
actually telling them like, I don't necessarily want you, but I want to know if you know someone and I get that person hired, I'll give you $2,000. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that works. Okay. It's not quite so like interrupted. We want to hire you. We want you to quit your job. I would say probably 30 to 50% of the people that I sent that message to actually wanted the job themselves. Okay. So
Hmm.
it's kind of a more passive way of contacting someone and giving them like a benefit to actually open the email or the email. So
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
big believer in LinkedIn, big believer in referral recruiting methodology and growing the LinkedIn connections and all that.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Well, that's the whole half an hour or 40 minutes. It's been packed with golden nuggets and awesome insights. So I'm sure that people listening and watching this interview will learn a lot from your experience, and they will feel inspired and motivated, and they will be like, I want to start selling the roles like Marsh. So that's super cool. So
Thing also, where your where your geek flag high. Okay.
awesome,
No,
awesome
I
stuff. Yeah,
tell you, it helps with with
yeah.
engineers. They like to see Star Wars. People. They like to see other Star Wars
Mhm.
fans. They like to see Lord of the Rings, Hobbit. Harry Potter, all that good kind of geeky stuff.
Yeah,
Wear your geek flag proudly. So when
very
you're
cool.
talking to candidates, it's gonna build some rapport.
Yeah, yeah, awesome, awesome, cool. So I'll link your LinkedIn profile as you mentioned, so that people can connect with you. Is there anything else you would like to kind of link in the comment section or in the podcast, like a website? Of course, we can include the company website or the career page.
Okay.
Or anything else?
Yep. I think we're good. We'll just put in the ocin.com/job postings, and I'd appreciate
Hmm.
that. If anybody has any referrals, we
Hmm.
are hiring for employees that live and work in the United States and don't require visa sponsorship right now.
Hmm. Awesome, cool. Well then, thanks for all these insights. Yeah, and have a wonderful day.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.